Your Worships, there was an addendum went out on Friday that included 3 pieces of correspondence, 2 reports.
Name of Lieutenant Leslie Miller was there, and he, when it was all said and done, all the oak trees were destroyed. There's nothing but big holes and craters. And he wanted something to take home, so he gathered up some acorns from the trees and mailed them home. They were planted in Scarborough. He come back home, he was fortunate, he survived the war, and it was called the Vimy Oaks Farm. And these majestic oaks grow there. And what happened was they sold the farm. It's now occupied by a Baptist Christian church. The Canadian government now, after 100 years, gave thought about, you know what, we should do something about Vimy Oaks with the statues, and we should put some oaks back there. So they are planning 100 Vimy oak trees on Vimy Oaks there now, where the 2 towers stand. And they also thought it would be nice here in Canada that some of these trees were planted in communities that have some significance going back to the Great War. In our case, the 116th Battalion. So we applied to get some of these saplings. You had to write a little blurb on each one of the places where you're going to plant them. And the mayor put a motion through here at council, and it was duly seconded. We did a write-up on 11 places in Uxbridge we felt would be a great place to remember. And we received the okay for all 11 places. So as of now, 8 of those trees have been planted, those saplings. Places like the Veterans Park, the museum, in every one of our 5 hamlets. Today we were planting at the Quaker Church, our first church, 1805, on the 6th concession at 1:30. We were planning one, and I want to thank the mayor again for getting me in touch with the chairman of the board there, and some of their board members are going to be there, and they're excited about it. That'll leave us 2 more plantings. One in the Uxbridge Cemetery, where we can't put it where the veterans were buried because there's no room, but it will be planted in Uxbridge Cemetery. The other one is hopefully at 50 First Avenue at Colonel Sharp's residence. So that's what's exciting, and these trees will grow in our community, and they actually, it's a show of strength, of an endurance, and it's to remember those people back, the people that left our township way back in 1914. I think the other thing, I don't know when anyone announced about Heritage Days coming up this weekend. That should be something, if you get the opportunity to go to the museum, you should go. Even this year, they're having a horseshoe contest. Anyhow, that's my announcements, and it's, hey, you know, it's nice to see a crowd out here this morning. David.
Thanks, Jack. Always a tough act to follow. All right, so going to talk about a few things. One is there's an epic lake-to-lake ride, and this ride is celebrating joining the entire Trans-Canada Trail together. It starts in the Beaverton Harbour. It goes through Cannington, and then down the Trans-Canada Trail, down John McCutcheon Way, who's in the audience today, and then stops for lunch at the Second Wedge. If that's all that that's the ride you want to do that day, you can stop, or you can continue on and go all the way down to Ajax to Lake Ontario and dip your wheel there. So, fantastic ride. And this was a great project that brought a whole bunch of different municipalities and Durham Region together. So, it'll be a really good ride. It's next Saturday. The other one is just, I haven't been on council very long, but Elgin Park, this was mentioned by Pat before, this park is such a center of our community. We've got, you start thinking of all the different people that have been there this summer alone. You know, we've got Canada Day, Platinum Blonde, which always brings out a crowd, and then Rib Fest, and then Celebration of the Arts, and anyway, we're just so fortunate that we've preserved that park and that it's such a centerpiece of what we do here in Uxbridge. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for coming.
I can tell you it wasn't that many years ago where we had a deputation where they wanted to use the park, take the park down, and take everything out of it and put development in there. So, anyway, it was a very short meeting. Okay, delegations. Our first delegation is Robert Bishop and Jennifer Durkin, and Robert and Jennifer live in 51st Avenue, which is the former home of Colonel Sam Sharp that you've heard so much about this year. And Council has made a proposal that we want to designate their home, and they're here today and have given Council a very informative package about their home and what they would like to do with it. So, whenever you're ready, you have to hit the purple button.
Yes, good morning, Madam Mayor, members of Council, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. As you said, our topic is basically to talk about the possible designation of our house and give you our perspective on it. I guess everybody knows where the house is, but just in case there's anyone who doesn't, it's right here at the corner of Dominion Street and First Avenue. Just to give you again an overview of our presentation. Sorry, I didn't get instructions on how to make this move. Sorry, I think I'm on. There we go.
There we go.
First of all, what we'd like to do is state clearly the purpose of our presentation. We'd like to tell you who we are, because I think that's important that you understand. I'd like to talk a little bit about our ownership of the property and how we've looked after it for the last 29 years, and then talk about the crux of the matter, which is the state of certain components and how, if the property is designated, the kind of consequences it will lead to for us in terms of the financial impacts. And then we'd like to suggest a possible way that we hope we could resolve this situation and then give you our final thoughts on the matter. Now, what we've given you is kind of an a Reader's Digest version of a long discussion that we had with Councillor Hyatt and the town staff. And now what we're going to try and do is give you the executive summary of the Reader's Digest. So bear with us if we skip through things fairly quickly.
Can I just ask you, when you met with staff in Councillor Hyatt?
Sorry, when we met with them? It would
Did-
be about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, thank you.
So to, first of all, just state again clearly the purpose of our presentation. We want basically to let Council know that we are strongly opposed to the designation of our private property at 51st Avenue. And we want to ask Council, whenever it's time for them to make that decision, to not proceed with that designation. And we hope to basically convince you of that by providing you some background information that you wouldn't have been able to get from Heritage Uxbridge because they haven't had access to the property. We want to identify, as we say, the potentially serious consequences for us if the property is designated. And we also, as I said, want to suggest a compromise. So just to give a little background on ourselves, the key thing I think that you need to know about myself is that I'm a civil engineer, and I'm a professional engineer since 1980, and that I am trained and qualified to do structural analysis. It is not my speciality, but I have the tools to be able to do that. And basically, I've used those skills and more manual skills for the last 40 years to restore and maintain older houses that we've owned, both this house and the previous one. Jennifer will introduce herself.
Yeah, and another important thing that we just draw to everyone's attention, because you may not know us, that we've lived in Uxbridge for about 29 years. 51st Avenue has been our home for that length of time. We're committed residents of Uxbridge. We care about the town. We care about the township. We care about the built architectural heritage in town, very much so. In my particular situation, I did study history of architecture at university, and back in the early 90s, I was a member of what was then called the LACAC, the Local Architectural Conservation Advisory Committee, now shortened wisely to Heritage Uxbridge. And on that committee, I wrote, designed, researched the first walking tour brochure of town, and in addition was also assisting getting a property designated on Franklin Street. I think it's number 30, and Lee Weldon was the owner at the time. So I do have some knowledge and background and understanding of the process. I also have a real worry and concern about what this will mean in our particular situation. Additionally, some of you may or may not know me, as I've been an educator in Durham Region for about 25 years, although retired now, having worked at Uxbridge Public School and Quaker Village Public School. So that's me, that's us. We are both very much heritage enthusiasts.
So this, as you can see, are some of the sketches which Jennifer prepared for the first walking tour brochure. So here is just a quick picture of 51st Avenue as it stands today, and here for comparison is what the house looked like when it was first built in roughly 1878. And there's a couple of points there that I would make, is that there is no wraparound porch on the house and there is no sunroom on the house, so those weren't original features. The other thing I'd like to say is that the lot as it stands is not the original site. The original site included the land on which 44 First Avenue now stands, the Gray's house as it tends to be referred to. So that's another, I think, important point to bear in mind.
And if Alan McGillivray hadn't personally told me that that was our house, I wouldn't have believed him because it looks so radically different, but he did.
Now here's a picture of it around 1910, at the time when Colonel Sharp was the owner, and you'll notice here that there is the wraparound porch, but there is no sunroom, so that's an important thing. But you'll also notice that there's a balustrade on the top of the balcony, on the top of the porch, and there's a piece of balustrade on the south side here, and of course we have the tower has an extra story as to what it has now. Moving forward here to now talk a little bit about our ownership. Basically, as we said, we moved here in 1988. At that time, the house is in extremely poor condition. The lady who owned it previously was quite elderly, and she had a very limited income. And so various things happened to the house over that period, which were inevitable because she simply didn't have the money to do anything else. But some of them have, essentially, as I say, it was in poor shape. And so we spent the first 7 years restoring and preserving and improving its condition. But we'd like to make the point, we did not renovate it. There are many old houses which, people buy and they tear the insides out of them, and there's nothing left of the original character. They pull features off the outside of it and, stick extensions on and so forth. In our case, our philosophy has been to restore it, preserve it, and maintain it to the best of our ability. And, that's what we've done, and that's what we will continue to do while we own it. I won't go into all of the details here on what we've done over the past 29 years, but let me just say that we've had to put a lot of effort into it, and we haven't done what past owners done, which is basically remove things which were inconvenient. So just as an example, the balustrade was completely rotted out when we bought the house, and I spent an entire summer in my free time fixing it, and because of that, it's still there. Otherwise, it would have gone. Similarly, we had to, twice jack up the roof of the porch to stop it collapsing, and, so in summary, without what we've done, the things that people value about the house would not exist anymore. So, let me now get to the crux of the matter, really. I understand. I will do my best to
We have 2 minutes left.
get through the rest of it in that time. But essentially, what I want to point to, and you have had the package, but is the crucial aspect of the sunroom. The structure is in poor condition because originally it had a glass roof. You can see here. This was replaced about 15 years, we think, before we bought the place, with a shingle and wood roof, which is much heavier, and it has caused extensive damage. It's essentially squashed the structure. This superstructure here is a very delicate thing, and it was not designed to carry that weight. So it has damaged it. There are cracks here that you could put your hand into, and it's been like that for quite a while, but there are signs that it is deteriorating more rapidly. Sorry. So, for instance, we have a crack that appeared in the past 12 months in one of the windows, but the structure is so distorted that it's impossible to remove that and replace it. So, ultimately, at some point in the future, this will have to be dismantled. And our estimates are that it will be probably $200,000, which we just don't have to fix it, essentially to rebuild it. And when we get to the nature of the designation, if that happens, we'll be forced into a position where potentially we have to do this kind of thing, otherwise we'll be in conflict with the township, and the township would have the right under the Act to take us to court, and we could be fined or we could be put in jail if we don't comply with that. So that obviously is a very serious situation for us. We also believe that it will make it almost impossible to sell the house, because with that overhang on it, who would want to buy it from us? So what we would like to suggest to you is that this all began because we made an application to sever 2 lots, one of which is at the back of the house, the other is between on the south side of the existing house, between there and 44 First Avenue. What we're suggesting is that we would terminate that application for the smaller lot that fronts on First Avenue, and therefore remove what you might call immediate perceived threats to the house and to the sort of the streetscape, if you like. And we believe that that would resolve the main issues at this point. And so we would sort of ask you not to designate it if we're willing to go forward and terminate our application. So I won't reiterate what I've said. I would just ask you, again, from the bottom of my heart, that when it comes time to make this decision about whether to designate the house against our will, without our consent, that you decide not to do that. I don't think it's a kind of thing that I would expect to happen in Canada. It really, as far as I'm concerned, it just doesn't fit with what I consider to be the Canadian democracy and style of government. So on that point, thank you very much, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that we can.
Thank you very much to both of you and for the very thorough presentation. Just a couple things. First of all, the Heritage Act permits a municipality to designate with or without the owner's the house permission. My understanding of it, and believe me, I'm not an expert. I'm trying to learn through this process because I feel very strongly that Canada has to start to preserve its heritage, and small communities do as well. Is that what goes on in the inside of the house doesn't really matter. It's the outside of the house that must be preserved. So, and I did live there. I lived on First Avenue for several years next to the church. And the lady you're speaking about is Mrs. Colleran.
Yes.
And she sold off the lot, and there was a fish pond, and I'm very familiar with the property as it was. I certainly respect, as the mayor and as a resident of Uxbridge, that the we'll call it the sunroom was not part of that house. And in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, is that if that had to come off, that would not in any way affect the house as it was when Sam Sharp, and basically why the house is of significant heritage value to us. So in saying that, I can understand why that has to come off, and certainly you as an engineer know the safety issues of it. So I thank you for bringing that to our attention. The other point is that I think that one lot here, and I can certainly support the lot coming off of Dominion Street, although I must say that I do not support the lot coming off of First Avenue. In saying all that, as the mayor and somebody that is supposed to be looking out as a member of council for the heritage of our community, I will not make a commitment to you today that I would not designate this property. I think it has significant heritage value, and we have to start protecting our heritage. But as I said, if the sunroom has to come off, then I don't have an issue with that. But I don't want to make a commitment to you that we will not, at some point, classify this house as heritage. I will let other councillors speak. Councillor?
Thanks, Mayor O'Connor. It's a slippery slope, and heritage properties are valuable to the community, but at the same time we also have rights. If you go and you buy a house and it's not designated, and all of a sudden somebody comes along and says, well, yeah, you paid this much for the house, but we're going to designate it, and now it's only worth this much money, that's not fair, and I don't think that's appropriate. So I guess it's a hard decision to make, but how do you compensate people for the loss? I mean, they're doing the same thing at Glen Abbey right now, very similar situation with the developers there. So it's a slippery slope, but I think our rights are important too, and I know the house is important as well, but somewhere down the road here, we have to have a compromise somehow and try to find a way to make this work. I don't think it's fair to punish people because they've purchased a house, and obviously you've taken very good care of this home, and probably better than most would have. So, and as you said, maybe this house wouldn't be standing today had you not done the work you've done. So I do feel for you with the fact that you own that house, and it's your investment. And somebody wants to come along and say you took a $300,000 loss in your house, and here's the $300,000. That's different, but I don't think it's your responsibility to take the bite. It's a hard decision, so we'll see where it goes.
Thank you for your presentation. I mean, I agree with the mayor on all the aspects that she spoke about, and also Councillor Malloy. The safety issue of the sunroom, I understand. I believe it was on there at the time of, did Sam Sharp actually build the sunroom? Because it was on there at...
It was there partly during the time when he lived there. I'm not positive if he was responsible for building it, but
Okay.
he definitely would have
C-
sat in it for sure.
Because it was there at the time of his funeral, according to some pictures that
Yeah.
I've seen.
Mhm.
It is difficult, you know, financially speaking. I don't have any problem with severing off the lot behind the house. I do with the one at the front, greatly. I mean, I would hate to see this sunroom go because according to what I could find out in a very short period of time, that, I mean, it was there in 1918, so there's, you know, basically 100-year-old, so that's heritage in my way of thinking. I mean, we really have to look at this. You know, I don't want to see, you know, us losing our heritage buildings, and as the mayor had mentioned, through the Heritage Act, it's not so much what people have done inside, but I commend you if you've, you know, done refurbishing, keeping it up, but it's the outside that makes a big difference, and we need to protect our heritage here in Uxbridge.
Thank you again for your great presentation. I won't reiterate what everybody else has said. I think they're all very, very valid points. In my mind, what it comes down to, and I understand that heritage can designate that, I think it comes down to states' rights versus individual rights. And if I owned this house, I wouldn't want somebody telling me what I can and cannot do to it. So in that sense, I agree with what you've said. I support what you've brought forward to us, and I really applaud you for coming and doing that for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and first off, thank you very much for all the information. You know, part of this is thrown down to us by the province. It's called intensification, it's called infilling. In our community where we can't grow much, people want to sever lots as they get older and their family's growing up and they want a retirement home. Am I correct in thinking that's what you want to do?
That was the purpose, yes.
I quite honestly didn't agree with the, when I went over to talk to you about the Vimy tree, and you said to me, Mr. Ballinger, it's going to land division at Durham. I think my words to you were good luck. I think that's how I summed it up. I look at to what's to the south of you, and if that was the property that belonged to the Sharp house, it's the Grey house and it's a bungalow that sits in there now. My thoughts on this are, and I like your compromise. My thoughts are, I'd be interested in knowing the type of house that you would put there. No, to the, I understand, and you got lovely trees that are on First Avenue. I believe your entrance is going to come off of Dominion Street at the back. Am I correct in that?
Yes, the second lot at the back would come off Dominion Street and...
Okay, so I went over this morning, I looked at your place again, and I looked at it, and, you know, you put a lot of work in the house, your family's growing up, you want to put a retirement home at the back. Personally, I have no objection whatsoever.
thank you very much for coming in. I know your house really well. I've got a really good friend who lives right beside you there. My thoughts on this, I don't see this taking away value. I see protecting streets like First Avenue actually adding to the value of a property like yours. So if you look at a street like Main Street, Unionville, those houses are worth, enormous sums of money because they're surrounded by history. So as you preserve properties like yours, the entire street, keeps its value. The work that was done on the Williamson Street across the road from you, the Williamson house across the road from you, that fits in perfectly with that street. It was added on, obviously at enormous expense to make it look like it fits in so well. That's what I see the protection, when you protect a property like that, all your neighbors, the people that's houses are protected, they all have to fit in with the same look and feel. And it prevents things like, bungalows from going on a street like yours.
Well, I suppose you haven't had the chance yet to see our proposed designs, which are very sympathetic to the streetscape, have modified barge boards, Doric columns, balustrades, and a low profile, and many of the features that our current house and the other houses on the street already have. So we have actually already got sketches ready for people to look at. We've had a few neighbors have a look at them just so that they'd have an idea what was going on. So we have put thought into that. My other feeling is that if we can, the house now is on the Heritage Register, which is a form of recognition and honoring the property and the history that happened on the property. And if we had a Heritage Register plaque, it would basically be like all the other houses on the street who also have that recognition, without what we consider to be the rather burdensome restrictions of the Ontario Heritage Act, which is a whole other story. If you are a private property owner, it's different to designate a public building, but when it's a private building and it's your home, and if you take a good look at that act with all the protocols in there, that's our concern right there.
So my promise to you is this. No, I'm not. I'm just saying. I'll take a really good look at anything that comes in front of me, like I did your presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Could I just make one little clarification? I apologize to council for, when we made the consent application, we pre-consulted with the planning people and we discussed the kind of information that was needed. And I misunderstood what they told me in terms of the timing of providing information such as sketches of what we were proposing and statistics in terms of how we would meet the bylaws and so forth. I got the impression that wasn't required until the minor variance process. So I think we have, perhaps confused people a little bit by not providing that information at that time. I think you would have then seen what we had in mind as being really quite sympathetic. But regardless of that, as I said, we will not be pursuing the smaller lot fronting onto First Avenue, and I hope that will establish our bona fides and allow you to be comfortable with not designating the property whenever that decision is made. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to conclude by saying that this council is going to be faced with making some very difficult decisions. If you look at what's happening in our downtown core now, where I'm going to say 5, it could be 6 big stores have been bought out by international company that in fact could come in and tear the whole downtown core down because we don't have it designated. And that is one of my major fears is, we've sat back, we've been very comfortable with people that, like yourselves, have come in and maintained houses and that sort of thing. But with what's happening today, in places like Markham and Stouffville, Uxbridge, we're going to lose our heritage if we don't protect it. So, as I said, this is a debate that council has to take very seriously. And it's certainly, you know, you were fortunate enough and unfortunate enough to buy a home that had the significant heritage value that it has. You know, Sam Sharp is, he will be one day hanging, his statue will be hanging in the Parliament buildings in Ottawa. You know, all this has to be taken into consideration, but we certainly appreciate your side of the story. Now what we've got to do is try and come up with something that we can both live with. Okay? So again, thank you very much for the very thorough deputation, and what I need is a motion to refer this back to staff. Councillor Ballinger and Councillor Malloy. All those in favour? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan McCutcheon. Ryan is here representing Bennett Equipment Services, and he has a electric car out at the front. I've been in these vehicles many.
Okay, so we looked at a solution that's you know, somewhat cost-effective, but also provide good quality service. So there are a range of towers that are, some of them are even regarded as residential towers. They are actually built. I don't have it there, but basically you can see a house with a tower built right beside it. That's in Schuylkill County. There's several in, and this is a commercial tower. This is not like a, it's used by one of the companies that distribute. So these towers have been installed in residential areas. There's a tower installed actually in Siloam, if you know, up on the terrain, golf terrain, which is right behind the property, like 60 meters. If you go on Highway 8, you look up, you'll see the tower there. Very few people notice it, but it becomes part, it blends in. But basically, that's a 90-feet tower that's installed there. So the idea is to come close to the community with smaller towers that are strong enough and allow you to install proper antennas and provide good capacities. And in the future, even to analyze the possibility to come with monopole, like monopine towers that are, they look like trees, because we found out, to our regret, that people are very sensitive in these areas. They are sensitive to the site of a tower. And most of them associate them with bell towers and Rogers towers, but they don't realize that the next neighbor has a 50-feet tower with an antenna on top. So that's where probably we have to work with communities. But this is an option. Of course, it's much more costly, so, but we will investigate it. So what we want to do now, why I came here, we want to propose two towers, similar towers. These are a little bigger because they will be a relay tower, especially the one on Bloomington. So it will act as a relay between the city and Zephyr and Future, so we can shoot to different locations from it with various antennas. And this tower is going to be located, we have a property that we talked with the owner and he agreed. And it's large enough, so you know, shouldn't be an issue putting on his property. It's a 150-feet tower proposed. We'll have to adjust the size based on that we'll have to do. And the second one, somewhere between 130 to 150 feet in Zephyr. I was having a few conversations with Mr. Malloy. He suggested the park as a potential location, though I think we found a better location, which would probably be even better for the council. I will show you immediately. Both towers are CSA S3713 certified, and they are calculated for the load and weather conditions like wind speeds. So they are not going to represent a danger to the community. We will use license links between towers to ensure that we can transfer without interference capacities of up to 1 gigabit per second all the way to Zephyr. So this 1 gigabit should serve the community with speeds up to like 30 megabit per second. And I will show you the location of Bloomington. As you can see here, this is the Highway 47, I think, yeah, and second concession. This is the industrial plant. And that's wherever the red pin is, that's the place. The property of this gentleman is all the way between the two, between here and here. So this is the only neighbor that's going to be legally impacted. You know, based on the legislation, we have to notify people that are 3 times the length of the tower, and that's the only property. Now, that's a property, nobody lives into that. And nobody has lived in years. Apparently, it's been bought for some investment, some by Chinese, I understand. Well, the owner told me. For a while, it was rented, then nobody sits there, nobody's there anymore. So this is for Bloomington. And for Zephyr, initially, we were talking about the park. I said maybe besides the hall, over there, it's a better location. There's already power that powers the baseball field. That's an option, but I think a better option would be a little bit, and I'll show you the path, why this is not the best option. Like, we have to have line of sight. Most of the time, you get line of sight going high, but not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to have high elevation. It depends on the terrain. So where you send the information and where you are supposed to have. If we put it there between Bloomington and that location, we would have something like this. And what you see here, here, and here, this is WAG Road, this is WAG and second concession. There's a forest there. As you can see, we touch it. This is the Fresnel zone. So we basically have to clear this. If we interfere with this, speaking to the mic, okay? Yeah. So basically, we would have to clear that. As you can see, the next interference is at West Road. West Road, it's between 2nd and 3rd, is not a continuous street. It's interrupted due to a ridge that's there. So basically, we're hitting that ridge. We have a very limited area through which we can send this information. That's why we propose a location which is further down the road. The gentleman property actually is going to be even in the back. As I talked with him, he said the best location is not there, but in the back, no, is not visible because they clean the peat moss and it's clay, so it's much suitable and it's farther from him, so he has no problems. Again, we are at over 200 meters from any properties, so there should be no issue. Literally from there, it's out of. The only small problem he mentioned, it's a conservation area. It's apparently part of his property's conservation area. So he has 55 acres, but only about 37 out of it is conservation area. But as long as we don't cut any trees, so wherever we want to put it, it's clay with grass. No trees needs to be cut. There's no pollution. There's nothing. I would actually propose, this is the location that we would like to propose if the council would accept it. It's about 600 meters from Rural Road 39 to that, and it's about 250, 300 meters from Zephyr Road north. It will be. So this is the second location. And this is now the path for the second location. As you can see, at first interference, at the WAG Road, it's almost minimal, 0. Wherever it's West Road, we don't have anymore. Just because we moved a little bit, we go in between these ridges. That's West Road that you see there, coming from second concession. The green line is the first one that will go to the park. As you can see, it hits here. So that's what you saw in the previous picture. Now when we move a little east, we go on the blue line. Now we go to the valley. On the other side, you can also see the other ridge. So basically, we have between these two ridges to shoot the information. Bell and Rogers doesn't do that. They just build taller tower. They don't care about anything. We don't want to be like that. We can't afford. First of all, the towers are way more expensive, and you know, people see them. These are shorter towers. We have software that we played a lot with it to find so that's why we cannot just be anywhere. We tried the cemetery in the Zephyr, which would have been very nice and clear, even with a 90 feet tower, but the cemetery board didn't accept, so this is what we have now. What's the expected results and coverage? So if we put a tower there, we are very close to Zephyr. We cover entire Zephyr with speeds up to 30. And for Bloomington area, where we have the industrial platform, We can even go with speeds of 100 megabit if somebody asks. 100 megabit per second download, 20 megabit upload for commercial packages. This is the coverage. So if we have the tower, I put it here, but it won't make a big difference. As you can see, whatever is in green. Whatever you see covered with green, basically, they would benefit of our service and the speeds that I was mentioning above. And this is the coverage for Bloomington area with the industrial area and people along concession 2 and a little bit here on the 10th line, your Durham line. There would be for these two towers, there's also another idea about Sanford. We were looking for a location in Sanford. Again, it has to be somewhere in the city or very close to it, not on some silos 2 kilometers out, because as you can see, the coverage, the technology we use allows high capacity, but it's limited in distance, because the radios, unlike Rogers, who use radios in a few watts, like maybe up to 20 watts, we use radios that are rated up to half a watt. So it's exactly like your home router, for example, that's limited. We have different antennas and we can go like up to 1 kilometer. Anything past that, you can serve, but with limited speeds. And that's not the idea. The idea is to provide them high speeds. So that's why we need to be close. We found the property in Sanford. Neighbors are they agree with, it's a 80-feet tower. So the owner and the neighbors agree, but again, it will have to go through the council, probably a public meeting with the rest of the residents to see if they are okay with that. So from legal standpoint, we should be fine, but as a good neighbor, it's probably a good idea to talk with everybody else. So that would be all. So these two towers, we'd like to know if council would approve that, if the places we chose are right or not. Yeah, so we know about Cranes. I talked with Mr. Todd White from Cranes, and there's some costs, with the application, and he told me, you have to come to me with latitude, longitude. You have to come to me with a place. So we have no problem going ahead with these places, but then if it comes back to the council and council says no, because of whatever reason, either people and they say no, we basically lose the money. We're talking about $7,000.
I understand that, but we do have a process.
Okay.
Okay? Councillor Malloy?
We've talked before,
Yeah.
Cosmo, a number of times, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a process, and unfortunately, that's the way it is, but it's very important to us that our residents know what's coming and know where it's going to be and
Yes.
have the opportunity to ask the questions they need to ask. So that's not an option. It's going to be there's going
Of
to be a
course,
public
of
meeting,
course.
of course. I have a couple questions. One of them is, what's the cost of the service?
The cost will be up to $100. So the top package, the 30 megabit, it's going to be unlimited package. So unlimited use, it's not going to be capped, and it's going to be $89.99 plus tax, which comes to $100
And
tax
that includes
included.
the TV service?
No, we don't distribute. So our TV service, they can subscribe to our TV service, but our TV service, it's a ethnical channel, so we're
Oh,
talking
it's all
about European
Okay.
channels. Yeah,
Okay.
we need a license from
That's fine.
for the regular channels.
When you're approaching the residents, are you going to be asking them for a particular timeline to sign up for?
Well, once we have the tower built, we will approach. We did a survey already in the community.
I know you did.
Yeah. We did the survey in February, March, and most of them responded positively, so they are looking forward to either. Actually, some of them said, I'll sign tomorrow.
My question is, though, are you going to require them to sign up for a particular time frame?
No. Sorry, no.
Okay.
No, so we don't want to force anybody into any kind of commitment. We think that the quality of the service will keep the customers to us. So,
Okay.
as long as we can provide better service, higher speeds, I don't see any.
That's fine. We'll see you at the meetings.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Barton?
Thank you very much for coming in. We desperately need this service in our municipality. 4G, what signals are you using?
No, so for the links, for the trunks, we'll use licensed links.
Yeah.
So we'll apply to Spectrum Canada for 11 gigahertz licenses. That's a good frequency to allow us to carry enough capacity.
Yep.
And locally, we will use 5 gigahertz and 2 gigahertz, so the free spectrum. There's another option to go with 3.65, which is like lightly licensed spectrum.
Yeah.
But we have 5 gigahertz that, antennas that can carry 500 megabit. If we are that close, we are good. If we go farther, 5 gigahertz will not help us, because the higher the frequency, the lower the penetration. So we can't go that far. But being that close, that's why we insist over, because we want to use 5 gigahertz. It's lightly used. Only the new routers have it. 2.4 is very crowded. So that's probably not an option.
Okay.
Plus, it can carry half the capacity.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, I need a motion then to, refer to CRINS.
Should we refer to CRINS or refer to staff to refer to CRINS? How do you
Yeah.
want to do it? Whichever.
Well, we can refer
Whichever.
to staff and they'll refer
Make
it to
your
CRINS,
way.
okay?
Thank you.
Councillor
that motion.
Malloy and Councillor Barton, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amanda Ferrero, Director of Parks, Recreation, Culture and Tourism, representation of promotional tourism video.
Okay, just while that's getting set up, I want to give everyone a copy of this. So part of the Ontario 150 grant that we had for the Active 150 program that we did, there was a piece in there where we were trying to do something for accessibility. So we worked with the Accessibility Committee and created this great brochure for Elgin Park, and it really highlights all the accessible features that we have in Elgin Park, and it's a building block for us to create even more accessibility at the park. So I think you're going to really enjoy it. We only printed 300 so that we can get good use of it, and then got lots of time to do that. So I'll just hand that out, and I'm going to have Kate Collins talk to you a little bit about the video that we're going to play.
Can you get up?
Okay, hopefully this is going to play with sound, not like the launch for the website. I'll retire if it doesn't work. No, just most of you I think have seen this video, but we just wanted to share it publicly. Do you want to pause? And this video was funded fully by Central Counties Tourism, so it was a great bonus for the town to have this video and them cover the costs. It's a great addition to drive more people to our website, which is one of our priorities. And if you have any questions at the end, we're happy to answer them. So I guess that's... And it's gotten over 8,000 views in the past week and a half.
Uxbridge, Ontario. A quick escape from the city, where time slows down just enough. We are the trail capital of Canada, with 330 kilometers of trails filled with adventure, where the kid in each of us can be curious, wild, and free. And at the end of the trail, there's a whole lot more waiting. Art, architecture, music, farm adventures, fast adventures. Historic sites, shopping, dining, and savoring the season. Spend a day discovering this Ontario oasis.
Great, yeah. Excellent, Kate.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Councillor Malloy.
I've already indicated this to Amanda, and you already know, Kate, what I'm going to say. I think it's a fantastic video. I think it's great. However, I do have a problem, though, advertising the second wedge, because that's not a township facility, and I don't think we should highlight one particular business in town when there are so many other restaurants here, too. So I think it's fantastic, but you take a shot of the second wedge logo, and I don't think that's a destination. And I think there are other restaurants in town, and quite honestly, we have to be fair to all the businesses in town. I don't think it's appropriate to pick one. Other than that, the video's fantastic. I think it's great, but I'd like to see that taken out.
Okay, just on that, there's several other stores you can see. You can see Savob.
I agree. We shouldn't be promoting any particular business with a township
But I think that,
video.
okay.
I guess I would ask. This wasn't paid for by taxpayers' money. It was actually done by Central Counties. So Central Counties believes that you lead with your best, and they are a tourism entity, and they funded this specifically for tourism to draw people into town, and they are very passionate about the fact that you need to tell people why to come, and our businesses are part of that story. So I guess we could look at it two ways. This was funded by Central Counties, and Kate and I did have a bit of a talk about your comment there, Councillor Malloy, and I guess one of the options we have, because it was produced by Central Counties, is to take our logo off of it, because Central Counties won't want to produce something that doesn't promote tourism. And this is a real tourism video. And so we would like to highlight it on our tourism website. As Kate said, it's already got 8,000 views, which is amazing. We need to drive traffic to our tourism website, which we think we've tried to do a really good job of making sure that every business is on it. Certainly every tourism business is eligible to be on it if they haven't put themselves in there already. And also, you know, it's such a great tool that we're going to be able to take that video and take it into little pieces and, you know, highlight the Foster Memorial, for instance, or highlight Lucy Maud. Like, we can clip those, because most people will like to see about a 10-second, 15-second clip. And so that video can also be cut up into little pieces that will be really great for us to use.
Yeah.
It's still, in my opinion, not appropriate to highlight one business in town like that. If I owned the Tin Mill or some of the other restaurants, I'd be saying, why am I not in the video? I don't think...
Tin Mill is.
Well, it's, I mean,
Yeah,
got,
but that
got a
being said,
shot of
their
the
name's
logo.
not there.
I mean,
Well,
logo's not
you know
there.
what? I
a
don't
problem with
want to take our name off of that.
I don't want to take our name off, but I just want the specific logo that it serves no purpose to me. It's great to see people sitting around a bar or a restaurant, but to have a logo, just a shot of one company's logo in town, I don't think is appropriate.
Can I just respond to that before your question? With when I did chat with Central Counties about specifically having the second wedge logo, one of the key pushes for that RTO and Ontario Tourism is breweries and brew routes, because that is one of the big tourism draws. And so without the logo, it could be interpreted as a restaurant that has that beer on tap. And so it was a key differentiator to actually see brewing company, to recognize that there is a brewery in Uxbridge. So that was the rationale. And as Amanda said, it's ultimately it's their video, so we can, you know, we can choose to remove our logo, but that's ultimately their decision.
Councillor Burt.
And I agree with Pat. If we had two breweries in town and we only mentioned one, I would totally agree with Pat that to only mention one puts preferential treatment to one brewery. In this case, when we only have one, and the majority of our restaurants in town carry that beer on tap, and it's a tourist attraction. If you think of it like our ski resort or a golf club, if we mentioned all of our golf clubs in a video, the restaurants and all the other surrounding businesses would gain from that as well. So I see people going to the brewery, doing a tour, and then going for dinner somewhere else, potentially. So that's my thoughts. Great video. How did you get Emily Batty to sign off on the video link? She just was the national champion, rides in our trails.
That footage was filmed last October,
Okay.
and so that was a collaboration with Sport Durham, and she just wanted to promote the trails. I mean, she was happy to be part of it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
She's a very recognizable face, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks very much, ladies. I love it. It'll help bring people to town. It'll take people to the brewery. It'll take people other places. So good job, and I'm all for it.
Councillor Beach.
I think it's an amazing, amazing video that can benefit our tourism. Yes, the brewery, I mean, their beer is served all over town. You know, and it is Central Counties, and they are trying to promote us as a whole. I just think it's a wonderful video, and it can only benefit us. And I know that the tourism website does offer to every business, so it's connected to this video. I think it's a win-win.
That's right. Okay, so, I think what we need to do then is just, so that Amanda and Kate know, that we do support it, we need to take a vote and vote one way or vote the other. So I need a motion. Councillor Ballinger?
I will give you that motion to support this video and to keep our name there. And quite pleased to do it.
And seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor?
Mayor O'Connor, could I have a recorded vote, please?
Recorded? Yep, no problem.
This is a request by Pat Malloy, Councillor Pat Malloy, to have a recorded vote with respect to the motion moved by Councillor Ballinger, seconded by Councillor Beach, to support the tourism video. Councillor Barton. Aye. Councillor Ballinger.
Yes.
Councillor Bryan.
Nope.
Councillor Beach.
Yes.
Councillor Malloy. No. Councillor Hyatt is absent. Mayor O'Connor.
Yes.
Carried on a vote of 4-2.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies. Going on, approval of the minutes for a meeting of July the 10th and the 31st. Somebody going to move them? Thank you. Councillor Ballinger, seconded by Councillor Barton, seconded by Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carry. Barton and Ballinger. Okay, correspondence.
Correspondence item 92, AMO, Proposed Asset Management Planning Regulation under the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act.
Received for information, Councillor Malloy, Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence 93, AMO, Re-Ambulance Act Legislative Consultation, including fire medic proposal.
We do not support this. The deadline's already gone by, but, yeah, so just receive it for information.
We can still send a letter.
We can still send a letter, and I think we should. This is cost prohibitive for us. So, okay, so I think that we should have a letter sent to AMO saying that we do not support. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ballinger. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 94, FCC, Agri-Spirit Team, FCC, Agri-Spirit Fund Response Generator Hookups for Rural Halls.
I'll just receive it, it's too bad.
Thank you.
It was a good project.
Seconded by Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence 95, Toronto Region Conservation Authority, re-protection for urban and near-urban wetlands.
Received for information. Seconded by Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 96, Toronto Region Conservation Authority, Re-Bill 139, the Building Better Communities and Conserving Watersheds Act.
Seconded by Councillor Malloy. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence 97, Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, re-comments on the Conservation Authorities Act review.
Councillor?
Receive it as well,
Thank
Mayor
you.
O'Connor.
Seconded by Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 98, Municipal GHG Challenge Fund, upcoming Municipal GHG Challenge Fund webinars, September 11th, 14th.
Received for information.
Just received, yep.
Seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 99, Region of Durham rebuilding activity, January to March 2017.
Received for information, Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence 100, Township of Scugog Fire Service Agreement.
I could not believe this. Anyway,
This is disappointing.
it's very disappointing, and I think that what we need to do is just receive it for information. If they don't, Scugog doesn't need our help or doesn't want to pay for our help, then they will be responsible for their own area. I'm not getting down on bent knees, and no member of our council or certainly our fire chief should be persuaded. They want the service, but they don't want to pay for it. Well, the Township of Uxbridge residents aren't paying for fire service for another municipality. We have enough of a responsibility. We pay other municipalities to protect us in areas to the southwest and to the northwest. And as far as I'm concerned, if they want our service, then there's a cost to it. So we just receive it. Yes.
Had there been dialogue back and forth? Because this is the first I heard.
Much
Was it?
dialogue.
Okay, because it just said ongoing discussion, so this
Yeah.
wasn't a surprise
Yeah.
to anybody?
No,
Just
there's
me?
been
Okay.
ongoing discussions between the fire chief and the CAO.
Okay,
And
thank you.
their council has made this decision, so we just need to receive it. Councillor Bellinger.
No, I just, all these years we've had it, I just wondered what happened.
Well, I think I'm wondering what's going on over there in the best place, in the best of times, so, you know what? I don't know. Their council has made a decision. Well, they feel they're overpaying. Well, you know what? We could say that too about, any
But you
of
have
our
to have it.
services, but we
You
have
have
to
to
have
have
it, so. Okay, so we just receive it. Councillor Malloy and Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 101, County of Peterborough, Ontario Fair Workplaces Better Jobs.
Receive. Councillor Bryan and Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried.
102, City of Owen Sound, request for economic impact analysis with respect to the Employment Standards Act.
I have down here, I don't even remember what this is about, Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
I think what we should do is support an analysis. Is that what they're asking for?
Yeah, that's what they're asking for, I
Yeah.
agree.
So, with this then, can we ask for, we support the analysis, or we support their recommendation for an analysis?
I support that,
Okay?
yeah.
I just want
agree.
to see what the analysis says, so. Okay, so moved by Councillor Malloy, second by Councillor Ballinger. All those in favor? Carried.
103, Ontario Clean Air Alliance, concerns regarding Hydro One's recent purchase of coal-free electricity generating station.
Talk about going backwards.
Isn't this brutal? It's brutal. We spend all that time with gas plants, all the other things we've been doing trying to get green energy, and now they take that money, they go down and support coal
In the United
energy-producing
States.
facilities in the United States. It's brutal.
you just wonder if there's anybody home. So I think we need to support this with a resolution. Okay? And certainly outline our concerns that we're going backwards by supporting this type of action by the province of Ontario.
Can I just throw this in, Mayor O'Connor? It just sort of makes you wonder where it is all going. I was at something not that long ago, a conservation issue, and they were telling me that in China right now they have 1,500 applications for new coal plants.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are trying to work things out here and be green here in this part of the world, and the world really don't care. But
No.
anyway, yeah, I'd support putting together a I'd support putting together a resolution.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 104, Viridian Corporation re-update on the status of the potential merger between Whitby Hydro Energy Corp. and Viridian.
Chief for information, Councillor Barton, Councillor Bryan, all those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence 105, Canadian Association of Nuclear Host Communities, municipal support and endorsement of the Ontario Power Generation proposal to develop a deep geologic repository for low and intermediate level radioactive waste in Kincardine.
Not very often you see a municipality support something like this, so.
But Mayor O'Connor, you know what I think is interesting about this is I think somewhere throughout these negotiations we have to determine how they're getting there. I mean, we're really in a terrible spot. They may be coming right through our town, so I think we should be involved in somewhere in this process to discuss how they're transporting this material to Kincardine. I don't know how we can do that, but
I think that is this not just a document stating that Kincardine is a willing host?
may not be if they're driving through Uxbridge. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. So that would not go back to Kincardine. That would go to the nuclear people. So I think it's maybe two resolutions to receive that Kincardine is a willing host. So if we can get a motion for that.
I'll do that.
Okay, and Councillor Barton, all those in favor? Carried. Now we want a subsequent motion asking the Ontario Power Generation, okay, to involve us in routes.
Yes, please.
In designation routes, okay.
And I'll make that motion.
And seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, sorry, that's your job.
Correspondence item 106, Wind Reach Farm request for sponsorship of the Horseshoe for Hope fundraising campaign.
Okay, we have contributed to Wind Reach in the past. What's your wishes, Councillor?
I'll make a
Brian?
suggestion, we send this to the golf committee to match what we did last year.
Okay. Yep. All those we need a seconder. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 107, Carol Gwinan, Celebration of the Arts, request for use of the Scribes and Council Chambers for Juried Art Show, September 17th to the 24th.
Support. Councillor Beach and Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, just as an item of note for this, we have a public meeting that's going to land in the middle of the Juried Art Show, so we will have to take that most likely to the community center at the arena.
What's the public meeting?
Philville.
Oh, okay. Pardon? Sayville.
There'll be a public meeting that will most likely fall in between those dates, so we will have to take it to another location. I believe it's scheduled for the night of the 18th of September, so we'll have to go to the community center at the arena, and it's for Saleville. Correspondence 108, Tish McDonald, request for road closure of Brock Street West from Toronto Street to Spruce Street and Spruce Street to Brock Street West to King Railway on Friday, May the 25th, 2018 for the unveiling of Sam Sharp.
I'm going to suggest that we refer this to, the township, works department and to the region because it takes in both roads. Councillor, Bryan and Councillor. We can support it, but I'm not sure, we've got to make sure that they've got a way around. The vehicles have a way around, so it's a year away. Well, it's not a year away, it's 6 months away. I'm not suggesting for a moment that we don't support it. What I want to make sure is that we have traffic flow.
Yeah. And I think it's the long weekend, isn't it? That
Yes.
May 24?
Yeah. So, and we're in culvert construction, so, I think that for the sake of, sending it and asking for a quick report, or have them look at it, we don't even need a report. If they both come back and say it can work, I'm great with it. If we've got to make some alterations, then let's make them. Okay? It's a long weekend, it's culvert construction, and yeah, it is brutal. And it's also this event, so, okay? So you want it referred to Public Works in the Region Durham for approval? Yeah. All right, we got a mover and a seconder? Who moved it? Okay, and seconded by, Jack. All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 109, Dan Mulholland, request to deem One Fall Ball featuring Crush Luther reunion anniversary concert taking place on October the 7th at the Uxbridge Music Hall as a municipally significant event.
Councillor Malloy?
I'll support that event.
Councillor Barton? All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 110, Sean Hermans and family request to install sidewalk from the museum to the fire station.
Yes?
I think it's a great idea, but it should go in our budget discussions.
Yeah, you're right. So let's refer it to Works for a cost estimate, first of all. And then, it should be referred, to the budget deliberations.
Just,
Okay.
yeah, just maybe an addition. Can we have a cost of the sidewalk going to the museum or a paved path going through, going from, what's the end of that street again? The way that, from Whitfield. There's a trail there instead. It's much shorter, and it would add to our trails and provide the exact same service, just keep people away from the roads.
Okay, that's an alternative? All right, so we have a mover and a seconder?
Yep.
Mover and, Dave. Okay, all those in favor? Carry.
Correspondence item 111, Paul and Mary Thomas request for an extension to their demolition agreement 4479 concession 2.
They had one extension, or is this the first? First? Okay, so, 1 year? Councillor Barton, Councillor Malloy. All those in favor? Carried.
112, Karen and J. Cam Burrows request for noise exemption for a neighborhood party on Saturday, August 26th, 12 Bristol Sands.
Okay. Well, I think I think we need to put some other stuff in that personally. I think we need to, bring their attention that they certainly need a fire permit.
Actually, I've spoken to the president of the Ratepayers Association, and I've been through that, and they have done that, and they're in the they've already in the process of applying for a fire permit.
Okay, and, I think the music should stop at 11.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay?
Yeah. I don't think it said after 11, did it?
No, I can check with Andre, but I believe the noise would allow them to go to 11. So the exemption would be for after 11.
Sorry, it's not the way I read it, Debbie, but, my understanding was they were going to 11 o'clock at night.
Until 11, okay.
But I could be wrong. I don't have the documentation that they sent, so.
Okay, so
It's a
music to
bonfire
stop
after.
by 11.
It says
And-
bonfire after the
It's the
time.
bonfire
After 11. They said the
After
bonfire
11.
may go on after 11.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I think they're talking about, is gonna go
Yeah.
past the 11 o'clock
Yeah.
with the band.
So I just want to point out, this is sort of endorsed by the Ratepayers Association of Bristol Sands. They've had this discussion, and it's going to be a great community event.
Good. Okay, so we've got a mover and a seconder? No, nobody, okay.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 113, Don Kitchenery, request for an exemption to the fence bylaw for property located at 55 Country Club Crescent.
That's Pam.
Well, the fence is already there, so,
And the
and
co-
it looks,
Pam.
and the condo people, they're all in agreement,
I understand that, but you know what?
but they should have come
I
first.
don't understand for the life of me why people do these things and then come back for forgiveness. And in this case, I think the fence looks absolutely amazing. Have no issues with it whatsoever, but they could have been in a position that we would have made them take the fence down. And that would have been very costly. So, hopefully people will come in at the appropriate time and ask for this sort of thing. But
So-
as it worked out great in this case, but it might have backfired.
So the people are notified that we're saying it's okay. Can we put a note in there about, after the fact, just to remind them if they're gonna do something like this, get it to council before?
Yeah. Yep. So we need, yeah, the condo did write a letter though.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, well, let's send it to staff, okay? So, all right, all those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 114, Jason Hicken, Bonner Boys, request to extend the Cruise-In Car Show in Elgin Park to include September 16th, 23rd, and 30th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay, grant exemption?
I'll give you that motion to support that.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, reports to council. Report. Oh, you're not done. Good night.
Correspondence item 115, Jenny Lawrenston, Snippets Hair Studio, re-support of a zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 2017-04, 170-174 Reach, Uxbridge, Benny de Blasi.
Where, sorry, what, 114?
Yeah, on the addendum, Gary Lynn.
Why, what about 114? I just did it. Holy cow. Okay, sorry. All right. What's council's wishes? Fred?
Just receive it for information.
Okay, seconded. I just have a quick question, and I know Jenny's in the, audience. Where are you putting your, food waste? Yeah. Yeah, if you could come to the podium, Jenny. Oh, Michelle, sorry. Okay, just, you know what? Poor woman's getting instructions for, there you are. Okay, one of the main concerns issued was, the, aspect of garbage.
Yes.
And I see in the, in some correspondence that there's going to be two waste receptacles on site, but those waste receptacles should not be putting in food. So, where is your food waste going to go?
What I've provided for council are pictures of the property outside and inside. Inside the store, first of all, before I even started to consider, there's a waste that's on the main road by the bus stop, and I guess that provides for anybody walking by. We've seen cars stop and unload their garbage.
No, but that's not for you to get rid of your waste.
Well, we are looking after that as well, even though there's a waste management company that takes care of it. We take care of that garbage issue when it's overfilled and waiting for the company to come. So that particular garbage is being looked after on a daily basis. I since have put 2 wastes on the exteriors of both ends of that plaza from my old store that take care of waste, and we empty them on a daily basis. And for the customers, once I'm open, I have pictures to show council that you can't, there's only one entrance, same exit, and at that entrance and exit, a customer cannot walk out of my store with garbage in their hand without putting it in the receptacle, both for recycling, for food, for paper and
That was my
plastic.
only concern, because, if we don't have proper waste, for food,
There's 5
there,
wastes
but
now.
just listen to me, please. If you don't have proper waste receptacles for food,
Yes.
it's going to sit there, and I can tell you, there's a lot of raccoons, there's a lot of cats, and I don't want them getting into the garbage can and eating food. That's my number one concern.
I can't control, as that
I
restaurant
understand.
owner, of the receptacles by the laundromat, or at my end, except for when I'm there. I will be there from morning till night. As far as food that comes from my restaurant, it will be contained inside my restaurant. I'll
Okay,
show you the
that's
pictures.
all I wanted to hear.
And then we have a locked bin that that plaza has had forever, and there's no raccoons. It's kept very well, very cleaned. Myself and my husband running the store, we have picked up garbage from the convenience store, from the laundromat, from wherever it's come from, and we even power wash, and I'm not even open. So that issue is not going to be one. If you'd like, I can show you the picture on the inside of the store where I've got receptacles. You
No, we-
cannot pass and go outside with garbage in your hands. But
Right.
should you do that, I have another receptacle on the outside of the store that we personally will monitor, as
Oh.
we do now daily.
That's fine, thank you. Can, I missed, getting a motion from council to hear. Okay. And your name is?
Michelle Duffy Johnson.
Thanks a lot, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Okay. Received it, yeah. Nothing yet?
We had a mover by, Fred Bryan, and that was it.
Seconder?
And do you want to refer to the planner and the applicant, or?
Just, receive it for information. Pardon? Oh, there was a petition. Sorry. Yeah.
So by virtue of receiving the correspondence.
So then we should forward it to our planner.
Sorry, Mayor Connor, there's a bylaw coming up on this anyway, right?
Yeah.
So the planner won't,
To the planner and the applicant?
well, they won't even see it by the time we deal with the bylaw, is all I'm saying.
It's on record.
Okay, all right.
Just have to vote on it.
All those in favor? Carried.
Correspondence item 116, Terry Baskin, Uxbridge Accessibility Advisory Committee, re-comments regarding BL 12 of Andre Grattan, Manager of Bylaw Services, re-traffic bylaw amendments for designation of accessible-only parking spaces.
I agree with the author 100%. It should have gone to the accessibility committee. I think it's important, at least for comment, so I would hope that they would do that now.
Okay. It's, a copy of it needs to, but it's the bylaw department that's gonna deal with it.
I agree 100%,
Yeah.
but I think it would have been appropriate for the accessibility committee to at least see it and comment on it.
Okay. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, and I agree with Pat. I sit on the accessibility committee, and just a quick email so everyone was aware of it, so it wasn't a surprise, I think would have just been, it would have
Okay.
been appreciated.
Fine.
I have no issues with the changes, though, and I think it's required for us to move forward with giving tickets for this.
Okay, so we just receive it for information and future, we send it to committee. Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Report, RC 2017 of Amanda Ferreira, Director of Parks and Rec, Tourism, Countryside Preserve entrance. Quick question, can you come up please, Amanda? Why was Euro disqualified?
Oh, they didn't go to the mandatory meeting. There was a mandatory meeting that
Okay.
they did not attend.
Okay, could I just ask in the future if that should happen again, that you specify?
Yes,
Okay,
for
why
sure.
they were disqualified?
Okay.
Okay, so we support the recommendation? Yeah, go ahead.
Amanda, can you tell me why it needs to be almost a foot deep?
So that is the trail that we typically close in the winter because it gets too icy. So what we're doing is taking the high side of that trail, which will be, if you're going down the trail, it's on your left-hand side. It has a high spot, and so some areas it dips. We got to bring it all up to the same height, and then it will slope, have a nice gradual grade that will run all the water off to the right. So in some places there'll be very minimal amount of gravel, but in some areas there'll be a lot more, so that it all has a nice even slope and all the water will run off to the right. So that should help us considerably, and hopefully we won't have to close that trail this winter. That's the hope.
Thank you. I'll move that recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Report RC 2117, again of Amanda. This is regarding tourism and the South Balsam Bridge. Just a quick question, where's the 1661 going to come from? Within your budget?
Yes, when Donna comes back, we'll arrange for it to come from somewhere within our budget.
Okay. So support the recommendation?
I have a question as well.
Mm-hmm.
When will this be done? Because I know people, because that's right near me, people are asking when it's going to be done.
Yes, it should be done in the fall. And we're pretty excited about doing this. This is the first time we've used the thermal piles. So it should eliminate, I used to call that the sinking bridge because every year it would sink.
It would bob up and down as you walk over it, yeah.
And this will eliminate that issue, especially right now where the riverbank is falling. We'll still have the boardwalk where you'll still have that kind of rustic walk across, because it will start at the north end of the boardwalk and only do that end piece of the bridge. So I did it backwards. The north end of the bridge stays the same.
Right.
Half or probably 3/4 of the boardwalk will remain the same. And then there'll be some new section of the boardwalk that will go into the south side of that bridge that will be fully replaced.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, I'll move that recommendation as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Amanda.
Seconded by Pam. All those in favor? Carried. Report PR 0817 of Bob Ferguson, Manager of Arena and Parks, road sign replacement at the Uxbridge Arena. Support recommendation. Councillor
I have a question.
Yep.
I just wonder, Bob, or why they decided to go with simply the red sign. Isn't that kind of like going backwards? I mean, how many lines of copy are you going to have in the red sign? Just like you had before. I didn't think it was very effective before, and I don't think it's effective now. I don't know why you wouldn't go with a color sign, a digital sign.
I think just for the advertising that we do get up there, it's more of a message board than an advertising board, so it's something that people just read rather than, the other one's more like a TV.
So how many lines of copy will go on the sign?
It'll go up to 6 lines at a time, and it'll do 26 characters per line, 22 characters per line. So it'll be a message board. It will be similar to the one you see at the fire hall where you read a message rather than watch an ad.
Councillor Bellinger?
I'll move the recommendation. I've talked with Bob and looked for the sponsorships and everything. I'm quite happy with the recommendation.
Do I have a seconder? Okay. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Bob, before this goes into effect, I would like to see some rules on what is the most visible as this is created. 6 lines on top of a pole as you're driving by would be very difficult to read. I'd like to see very minimal wording on that, so that you could read it in, you know, a very short period of time and make the messages as clean and clear as possible.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, then I would agree with Pat and make it where you can actually have a graphic image that will say a lot more.
So just to speak to that, the sign has a capability of doing up to 6 lines. We would basically look at the ad that the people are trying to advertise. In the past, it had 3 lines, which this sign has the same capability of doing. And we would just enlarge the font so they would be able to see it. Typically, what we get up there would be like a craft show or whatever that just gives specific information that would say craft show at the arena, date, time, and so forth or whatever, more than an ad. So it would be, we would use the text as you're speaking to. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion. Moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. The next one is from Bob as well, and it's the purchase of a skid steer. Councillor.
I have a question. Bob, it doesn't say here who you're buying it from?
It's from Uxbridge Tree Service in town.
Okay. That was just an omission? You just didn't put that in, or?
No.
You don't usually put in where you...
Well, most of the other things we get do have them.
Pardon me?
Most of the other things we get have a list of who they've quoted or who they talked to.
If they've quoted that this is
If it's a new piece of equipment. This is a used piece of
So
equipment.
we usually don't put the names in there? Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you. Just curious.
Councillor Malloy?
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Just a couple things. We've not had a skid steer before. Why do we need a skid steer now? And I guess my question comes up. Everything is optics as usual, and what this looks like is that because we got $20,000 worth of sponsorships from those generous companies that put the money into the sign, that we decided we got $20,000 from them, let's go spend the $20,000 on something else and buy a skid steer. That's the perception to me.
No,
coming at the same time doesn't really work for me very well.
No,
and that's why I wonder, and how much are we paying for the skid steer?
Yeah, absolutely not. That's why I mentioned in the report that the skid steer was in the 2019 capital budget. We're just taking the opportunity now with the savings from the road sign when I spoke with Donna as a means of funding it, and then it will be a $40,000 line item that we'll be taking out of the 2018 capital budget process when we get there. So the skid steer is definitely something that was in the forecast. It's not something that we just thought we'd spend the money on. The price on the skid steer right now is $35,000. We're saving approximately 35% from purchasing new to go to a unit that only has roughly 290 hours on it. It hasn't even met its first service. So there's a huge saving by going with this piece of equipment. We have had it inspected with our township mechanic as well.
It was slated in the budget, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just, to me, that both of them coming at the same time, looks like you had an extra 20, so we may as well throw in the skid steer. Most people wouldn't know it was in the budget. That's my issue with it. So a new one is worth how much, Bob?
A new one, roughly around 47,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor?
Yes, Your Worship, I had talked with Bob about this, and when the opportunity came forward, as Chair of Parks and Rec, I thought it was a really good idea. And if we could find the money, and he did go and talk with Donna about it, and it can be found.
Okay, so, Barton, I'm sorry.
No problem. So, Bob, what type of work do you see this piece of equipment doing that we can't do with our current? We have a small tractor as well, right?
We have a small tractor that's used a lot of time, is committed to ball diamond maintenance, but this will definitely be used for our trails. For an example, we just did a piece of trail work on the Wooden Sticks Trail a week and a half ago, where we rented a Bobcat at $450 a day for 3 days just to bring in material. It gives us the versatility to access into our trails, as well as it provides another function that a tractor just doesn't do. Allows you to get into tighter areas, it has a heavier lifting capacity. It's just a versatile piece of equipment.
And how big is Is it like small on the skid steer size?
I would say it'd probably be on the medium size. It's a 60 horsepower unit.
Okay.
It comes with 3 attachments. It's got a bucket, a set of pallet forks, and a hydraulic grappler, which could be used for removing trees and stuff like that in the trails.
And what's the total width?
The bucket, I believe, is a 64-inch bucket, 64 or 72.
Okay. Because a lot of our trails aren't that wide, right?
Yeah.
That's my concern. When you go a little bit big, most of the trail maintenance is done with the little walk behind Bobcats because they're small.
This is would basically be the same size unit that we rented to do the trail work in the Wooden Sticks Trail.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Mayor O'Connor will move the recommendation, and it was a great exercise. Lots learned. Well done to all those that arranged it.
Report FR 0417 of Phil Alexander regarding post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD program. I think we need to support the recommendation. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Report PWO 5417 of Ben Kester, operations line painting for cyclists. Councillor Brian and Councillor, you got questions, both of you? Okay, Councillor Burton.
Okay. So, Ben, I don't remember us asking for line painting on our roads. What I believe we asked for was share the road signs.
All right. Sorry, I guess that was my mistake.
Okay.
Councillor Ballinger.
Yes, in regards to that line painting, it was to go from Goss, Victoria Street up to the arena part of it, and again along to the out the 7th concession. And that is being looked by the region, and Ms. Siopis said she would get back to me when their people had looked at it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
It's interesting when you read that report, because the rule is what is it, 3 feet, 1 meter outside of where the cyclist is riding? So theoretically, if you're driving down one of our roads, you can't be the appropriate distance from a cyclist. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
You would
curious.
have-
I'm
you would
curious.
have-
I
any
just-
road.
You would have to
Yeah,
pass
that's what I'm
them
wondering.
like a vehicle.
You'd have to go into an oncoming lane to pass
like
somebody.
a vehicle.
Oh, okay. Anyway, okay.
Okay. So we just received this report then? Councillor Brian and Councillor...
Well,
yes?
I would like to see the question that we actually asked, which was, could we put share the road signs on the route that was determined to be the cycling route?
Ben?
I'll have to get back to you on that
Okay.
regarding the legal ramifications of it.
Have we determined it's a cycle route yet?
Well, it's,
No, it's never been through council, that's my that's my
So-
question.
So, okay, there's a couple issues here. I think we need to receive the report reline painting, okay? Just receive it. So, Councillor Bryan, receive that report for information. Now we're going back into and asking for, a report from staff regarding a cyclist route, right? And the signage on that cyclist route.
So there's probably
Cy-
two motions there. One is a report regarding the
Well,
share of
he-
the road signs, and another report regarding what is our cycling route in the township.
Well, the signs would only go on the cycling route, right?
Okay, so tie it to, so the first part
So
would be to the
it's-
cycling route.
Right. So, what the motion should be then is that, Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations, report back to council regarding a cyclist route and signage on that route.
yeah,
Okay?
I'll give you that motion.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ballinger. All those in favor? Carried. The next one is also by Ben, and it's regarding Operations OMCC, program grant. Support the recommendation?
No, because again, there's some data that's not totally accurate there. One is, on the date, it's not, the application deadline isn't August 18th, it was extended to September the 8th.
September the
It's the
8th or
8th.
9th?
I wrote an email late at night and I said the 9th, sorry. So it is actually the 8th at 5 p.m. And then the cycling plan, we have received additional information from the Share of the Road Foundation that states that we can do it for between $30,000 and $40,000 for that cycling plan, instead of the 100 that's stated in the report.
So, what's council's wishes on this?
We'll have to refer it back to staff again and get a report that's more accurate then, I guess.
Sorry, am I confused, or is this not something we already discussed and referred to the budget? When Councillor Barton sent us that, was this not something we had already discussed and it's come back up?
We don't have another meeting before the deadline. It's September the 11th is when our next council meeting is. Pardon me?
And you won't be through budget. If it's referred to budget, you'll miss the deadline to apply, I think is the concern, right?
But didn't we already have a motion for this particular item to go to budget? So therefore, we have to have a motion for reconsideration before we even talk about this, right?
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion for reconsideration on the OMCC funding.
Yeah, we've got to deal with this report. So what do you want to do with this report, Dave? Receive it?
I guess we'll receive it and then we'll talk about it in a second. So, yeah, so a motion to receive for information.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor, Ballinger. All those in favor? Carry. Okay. So then going back to the OMCC program grant is what you want to address.
Right. So then I would like to make a motion for reconsideration that we apply for the OMCC funding before the September 8th deadline, so that when we refer to staff, we refer a budget item of between $6,000 and $8,000 to the budget instead of $30,000 to $40,000 to the budget. Because otherwise, if we're asking for it, if we wait until budget, we don't have any grant, so we would have to ask for the entire pot. This way, we could ask for our 20% of it, and we would actually put it on the wish list, like we do with many other items.
Okay, but and I think I emailed, when I read my agenda, I think I emailed out to all of you, was that we have to go through a process for this, correct?
So
we have to have 3 quotes.
Right, and just like Ben put in $100,000 as a budgetary price for us to think about this proposal, we now have another price that's significantly less that we can think about, and then we would go for quotes once we receive the funding. Because just like when we get Healthy Kids funding or anything like that, we don't have all the quotes already until after we get the funding.
But we don't have the quotes to back up. I guess this is where I am sort of confused, Dave, is that we don't have the quotes to back up our application. We have to have 3 quotes. Okay, now, we can pick 3 quotes. We do have that ability, 3 people to go to and ask them to quote, rather than going to tender. But we will not have that information back before the deadline. You think you can apply without?
There's nothing in that application that stated that you had to have firm quotes to apply for funding.
So you're gonna apply the maximum then?
Or I think we would apply for funding for a cycling plan. We could ask, put that line item at $100,000, or we could put it at 40, whichever we decide, and whichever quote, if we get the funding on September 18th when they're going to announce it, then it would go to the wish list and make sure we actually appropriate funds to it.
Councillor Malloy.
I guess there's a couple issues with this.
Sorry.
In the future, I don't mind applying for the...
Just a minute, please.
You wanna make a motion to reconsider?
Yes, I do. Okay, moved by?
Through your worship, in terms of a motion to reconsider, it has to be, only a member who voted thereon with the majority can make the motion to reconsider. I'm sorry, Councillor Barton, I do not recall if you voted in favor or against the motion to refer it to the 2018 budget. I don't know.
I voted against it.
Okay, so then you can't move the motion for reconsideration. It
Okay.
has to be, in the particular case, I believe it was moved by Councillor Malloy, seconded by Councillor Bryan, or vice versa.
So I know who voted which way on that one.
It was moved by Councillor Malloy, seconded by Councillor Bryan.
So then, and
only some of those people that voted in favor of it referring it to...
I'll give you the motion for reconsideration.
Thank you. And who else voted?
Jack voted against it too.
Sorry if I can go, it was Councillor Malloy, Councillor Hyatt, and myself who voted for it, and Mayor O'Connor was the tiebreaker.
Right. So then I'll second Jack's, no.
No, I can't make that motion.
So we can't get a,
well, so you can move it, Carolyn. You can make, you're...
No, chair can't move it.
Chair can't move it.
Pardon? I'm in the chair.
And I won't make that motion. I thought we did the right thing to report it to budget, so I'm willing to stay with that. I won't make that motion.
We've had this conversation, and what I don't understand is, by going forward at 6,000, whatever number, 4,000, whatever it's gonna be based on the 20%, by putting the it's a question, by putting the application in, are we committed to doing that?
No, because if you go out and it's more than what you anticipated, you don't have to do it.
I guess where this discussion came up last time we discussed this, the issue I have is that I don't wanna commit money to a project that I don't think's gonna fly, because I don't think we're gonna get the numbers for the commuter riding. I don't think they exist. I mean, I think you pointed out you had something on, Quaker Village up to the 6th. There's no way we're gonna get enough people on those locations to qualify for these grants. So I don't wanna commit funds to something that I don't think is gonna be successful. That's my issue. I don't think we're gonna get any of these locations when we had this recreational use as opposed to commuter use. I don't think we're gonna get the commuter use.
Okay,
Am I not
so
right?
you know what? There's
Just a
no
question.
discussion here, guys, because there is no motion to reconsider. We can't reconsider it because we don't have the numbers, okay? So, what it's done is that what the motion was the last time, okay, is standing. Goes to, so it won't happen, won't happen now.
Okay, just for clarification through your worship, so, with Ben's report, PWO 5517, You ended up only receiving it for information. So there was a previous motion on July the 31st that referred it to budget, but you did not do the second part of Ben's recommendation, which again was referred to 2018 budget. You've only received it.
So do you want it,
So
you
it still
want that
stands.
to be reconsidered, so it's going to budget for,
It still stands on July the 31st that it was referred to budget. So it's still there.
still there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, do we all figure out where we are and who we are? Report PWO 5817, regarding the Sanford Hall air conditioner unit. Seconded by Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Report PW 5717 of Ben Kester regarding proposed layout for Goodwood Hall addition. I'm just questioning, if we're gonna do this, and it's only half of the space that's there, would we be better off to do the whole thing for 1,000 square feet? We're putting in 500, or we're talking about putting in 500 now, right? Pardon me?
Is it just 500?
Yes?
That's all the Lions requested,
Yeah.
was 500.
But I'm just thinking about the amount of growth that's going on in there, in that community. And if we're going to put an addition on, are we not better off putting on a bit larger than what we need today for future? It's not gonna cost that much more to do it now versus having to put in an addition in the future and changing roof lines and all that. You're gonna have to open up your roof now to get the proper angles and that sort of thing. So you're better off, in my humble opinion, to look at putting the 1,000 square feet on, have a little bit of extra space in 2018, and in 2025, have the space that you need.
So, like, I'd like to send this back to staff for new recommendation, and I totally agree with you that we need that extra space with the growth and the combining and looking at the future as we're doing it. I think it'd be far more cost-effective now than doing something in, 5, 10, 15 years.
Well, I don't think it'll take that long with the amount of growth that's going on in
Yeah.
Goodwood, so. Okay, so we've got a motion to refer back to staff.
So, can I just
Certainly.
make a comment?
Yeah.
If you want 1,000 square feet, then pass the resolution to get you 1,000 square feet.
So we can continue with the thing. Okay. So to put in it, if it's 1,000 square feet, Ben, that would fill in that, basically, isn't it?
I'm not sure, so, if you wanna just say fill in the area.
Fill in the area so that, again, we have a rectangular box, okay? All right, so, we need a motion for that with the money to come out of the, 2018 budget.
The funds are coming from the sale of the,
Right, but
Lions Hall.
that money will go in the budget and then come
Okay.
out, right? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, so.
To put it into words, though.
All right, so instead of building a 500 square foot building, we're building a building that will be, in approximately 1,000 square feet.
So are you wanting costing from staff for a
No.
1,000 square feet? or
No,
He's gonna design a building that's 1,000.
we're going to design a building that's 1,000 square feet. Okay, the money will come out of the sale of the Lions Hall and be part of the 2018 budget. Okay? Approximately, yeah. Councillor Beach and, you okay? And Councillor Bryan, all those in favor? Carried. Okay. PWO 5817 of Ben Kester regarding the winter sand tender. And, this, part of the tender for last year was that it could be renewed like this, so we just support the recommendation. Councillor Barton and Councillor Bryan, all those in favor? Carried. Report PWO 5917 of Ben Kester regarding, the snow plowing tender.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Barton. Question?
Ben, Green Earth Canada, I tried to find them, and the only thing I found was a house. Do they have the tractors and things like that to do this? How much, what due diligence?
I talked to them last week, and they're fully prepared to do it. They're from Stouffville.
The address is in Stouffville.
Their yard is in Stouffville.
Okay.
Okay, so there was additions that were added. Thank you for that this year, Ben. Will make it a lot easier. Support the recommendation. Yeah, all those in favor? Carried. Report 3517, of Donna Condon regarding the return of letter credit.
Just a quick question, through to Ben. Ben, you know, the only concern I've always had on this road is that extension, the concession two. Is it built to an appropriate level? Like, is the standard of that, I've been up that road, it's not a very good road, I mean, it's just...
For one house, it's acceptable.
So what would happen if somebody at the end of that property decided they wanted to build a house now? Would that road be appropriate? I thought they had to build a road...
The terrain doesn't allow it.
It's just...
Where the road ends, it just dives off.
What about to the west? There's some property, I don't know who owns that, but...
There's one lot, but it's right at the south end.
Is it? It's just, when we ask people to build a concern that at some point in time down the road, someone's gonna ask us to assume it. And at that point in time, do we have the opportunity, we'll assume it if they bring it up to the township standard? Is that how it works?
Yeah, in the future.
In the future, okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, so we have...
Recommendation?
Thank you. Seconded by? Councillor Beach, all those in favor? Carried. Report 3617 of Donna regarding return of letter of credit for Fountain Hills Investments. Supporting recommendation? Seconded by Malloy. All those in favor? Carried. Susan Strawn, tax collector, re-extension agreement for property registered for tax sale. Spoke to Susan very early this morning, and just so you understand that the what was the number again? The $565 has to be paid by August 31st, and if any of the dates are missed, okay, any of them, then it's null and void. Okay? All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Seconded by Pam. All those in favor? Carried. Report BL 1017 of Andra Grattan regarding services request for fill placement at 126 Zephyr Road.
Move the recommendation, Mayor O'Connor.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Did you get them? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Report 1117 of Andre regarding bylaw second quarter report. Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. BL 1217 of Andres regarding bylaw services, re-traffic bylaw amendments for designation of accessible only parking spaces. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I support the recommendation, and, just as an adder, in regards to Terry's letter, just, that in the future, bylaw will ask the accessibility committee about anything to do with accessibility.
Or not ask,
Not
but
ask, sorry.
inform.
Inform, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for changing that.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Report 1317 regarding, services school parking enforcement on Planks Lane.
Move the recommendation?
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ballinger. All those in favor? Carried. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. My concern with our policy on parking around schools is it works perfectly for times when the buses are there. What it doesn't work for is the times when a parent has to go to the school to, pick a child up or, drop them off in between hours, pick them up for piano lessons, things like that. It's so restrictive that you can't park near the school because there's very limited parking already. And we have a huge bus zone that is open the majority of the time. I would like to see time limits somewhere so that we can allow for 1 or 2 parking spots during the day when parents need to be at the school for 10 minutes at a time.
Uxbridge Secondary School has quite a bit of visitor parking. Generally what we find is when parents are there to do pickups or have to run into the office, they're parking within the fire routes, putting their four-ways on. So there is options that way, that if somebody's picking up or dropping something off and a kid can run out to the car and get something from the car, they're not considered parked and they can make use of the fire route. Uxbridge Secondary School does utilize that quite a bit. But we don't find that there's a lack of visitor parking at the schools, but there may be on the public school side, the elementary side.
So, yeah, and I'm speaking more from the elementary school, and everything from Stanford Public School. The woman who runs the Cam's Kids charity has gotten parking tickets, dropping off brochures at Joseph Gould, things like that. If it is possible to park in a fire route with your four-ways on, I think we need to make sure that people are aware of that so they're not getting a ticket for doing exactly that.
They're not considered parked if they're actively doing that. So if you pull up to the front of the school to pick up your child and the child is jumping in or out of the car, you're not considered parked. You don't get a ticket for that. But you can't physically leave your vehicle. You physically leave your vehicle, then you get a ticket.
And that's the issue. That's impossible. Yeah. So in order to go pick up your elementary school child, you have to sign them out of the office. So you have to leave your car for 5 minutes while you grab them.
So I think what Andre's saying is that there's plenty of parking at the Uxbridge Secondary School.
That doesn't help me at Uxbridge Public School.
Well, you walk across the street.
No. Like, I'm saying all the schools. I'm saying, Uxbridge Public, which is Victoria Street. That doesn't...
Well, there should be parking. Is there not extra parking at Uxbridge Secondary, or Uxbridge High?
Uxbridge Public School does have some parking spaces that border onto the township roadway in between their kiss and ride. And then there is some options along Colburn. We have a section that is unpaved gravel that goes up to the fence.
This is about Uxbridge Secondary School.
Yeah.
This is Planks Lane.
And I'm just making an overall comment on parents that are trying to...
Let's deal with this first, and then we can, if you want, bring up about the other schools, okay?
Sure.
All right, so, we have a mover and a seconder already, okay, all those in favor? Carried. Now you want to bring up...
Okay.
Okay, and what school specifically are you referring to?
Well, my experience is with Uxbridge Public School.
Right.
But I also am aware that there's similar issues at Joseph Gould. If you're picking up your young child, kindergarten 1, 2, you want to be able to park as close to the office so you're not walking a long distance. Also, there's not a lot of parking close. So there's a huge open area that is wide open all the time because of our no parking zones, and we're really only concerned about, 2 hours of the day. which is the bus zone. And it's for all of our elementary schools. Our schools are designed so giant buses can drop off kids. You'd think there would be a way that we could allow, one bus worth of vehicle parking in front of them during 23 hours a day.
During the day, there are 4 separate times that we need to be in around the school for, obviously for first thing in the morning, then dismissal for lunch hour, then return from lunch hour, and then at the end of the day. Is there things that we could look at for Victoria Drive in relation to parking? I have done that. I have had a lengthy conversation with a lady that received a parking infraction, and I provided her quite a long list of areas that you can park legally. I think that a lot of the issues get into the schools themselves not providing adequate parking on the school's property, and I don't think that's an issue for the township. That's a matter that the schools need to be dealing with as well.
Okay.
The thing is, and I hear what you're saying, because I know in Goodwood, there isn't adequate parking for visitors. So they park on the road where there's no parking. There's been tickets issued, because it's just across the road to get to the front door. There is other parking. You can go down the street, several streets. Yeah, but people will still park, and if they knew they could put their 4-ways on and not get a ticket.
Can't get out of the car.
Yeah, I know, but they'll try.
Okay.
Maybe we could start with the school boards and just suggest that they consider providing 10-minute pickup and drop-off parking at their schools and start there and see where that goes. Really, it is a responsibility. It's the schools that that's what it's about. It's about the schools, right? It's about the kids going to school. So maybe as a municipality, we can start there with school boards. We send a letter and ask them and tell them it's a concern, and we wonder if you could do something about it.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Are you making that motion?
I would be happy to. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So do you want to meet with the school board rep for Uxbridge first?
Who is that? Who is that now? Oh, Baxter got appointed, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great idea. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
sure Dave would like to as well, right, Dave?
So we ask that the school rep, Board of Baxter, come in and meet with council regarding drop-off parking positions on school property.
We could maybe start with just Dave and I instead of council's time, and then come back and let you know.
Well, if you wish, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, just Dave and I'll meet with them first, yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So
Thank you.
Councillor Malloy versus one I've got in there for council, 2 councillors. All those in favor? Carried. All right, report 3017 of Andre regarding animal services. No, sorry, I'm one ahead of myself. 14 is the exemption of a site alteration bylaw for Corey Yake. I just wanted, this is my concern, is that nowhere are we saying that it has to be one site that it's brought in from. So he could be bringing in from 10 or 20 different sites. I know that's an exaggeration, but I really feel that we need to know where this material's coming in from, and we need to have a site certificate stating that it is clean material.
I just looked to the clerk for direction if my recommendation in the wording, number 3, where it says source site, can that be amended to be a single source site as per council's direction?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And with have you got on there with documentation?
Yes, it's showing that it's a requirement and that verification that it's been done consistent with the Drainage Guide for Ontario.
Yeah.
We've already received quite a bit of comments from the drainage coordinator about Corey's proposal and what he's looking to do and things that should be changed as per OMAFRA.
Okay. Yes.
This is kind of where our whole system falls apart here, is because we have a fill bylaw that's pretty specific and it's actually a very good one, actually. But when it becomes when it goes to agriculture, we have an issue just recently with some of the sod farms, where there's no rules anymore. So, we really have to sort of, I don't know how we can do it, it's something we have to look into. We have to have one rule. If you wanna bring dirt into this township, it's gotta be clean, and we have a certain protocol that you have to do to make sure it is. And I don't know how we do that, Andre, and I know agriculture has certain exemptions all over the place, but, you know, we have a place like Dagmar that we've put them through hoops to try to get some of the soil they want in their property, but yet we had probably 1,000 loads in my area just in the last week go onto a property, and we have no idea where it came from, because it's agricultural, there's no rules. We have to put it together somehow, and I don't know how we're gonna do that. I know we're gonna meet with the field committee soon, but it's a big problem. 2 different rules for 2 different people.
I think it is challenging. You have to maintain the ability to ensure quality of soils within that, but recognizing the farming operation and allowing some leeway because of that. So yeah, it might be a bit challenging to reword our site alteration bylaw to address those type of things, yes.
So that will be a good meeting. All right, so, we're going to include that it just have one site only in the recommendation?
One site only or one site at a time, or just one site period?
Well,
At a time, and with all supporting docs that cleans up.
right, okay, I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Beach, second, Councillor, Bryan. All those in favor? Carried. Report, 3, Animal Services for first and second quarters. Received for information, Councillor Bryan. Seconded, Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carried. 0517 of Ingrid, downtown CIP funding. Received for information, Councillor Bryan, seconded by... Yes, you've got us. Councillor Ballinger. All those in favor? Carried. Report CAO 6 of Ingrid Selmas, capacity reserve for downtown Uxbridge. Received for information, seconded by Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carried. Report 3717 of Catalina Blumenberg, regarding election services contract with the Dominion Voting Systems. Councillor Malloy.
Move the recommendation.
Okay. Seconded, Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carried. Report DS 4917 of Liz Housen, regarding the Reach Street Denny Bassi application. Councillor.
I'll move, Ms. Housen's recommendations.
Okay,
I'll second it.
thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Bylaws. Oh, sorry, I got 2 more. 5017 of, Liz Housen regarding Moore, Field Properties Limited. And that's the condominium application for Cemetery Road.
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, seconded,
No, I'm not seconding, I'm asking a question, Mayor O'Connor.
okay.
We passed a bylaw in our township not that long ago that requested that if you're building something in our town, you need to have 2 parking spots outside of the garage. This one doesn't. This has 2 parking spots, including the inside of the garage. And for that reason, I wouldn't support it. We're going to get stuck with these parking issues down the road, and I know that there's been some discussion about this, but the reality is we'll pay for the price of these, especially on Cemetery Road. Where else are they going to go and park? And we know that 1 spot in the garage and 1 spot in the driveway is not enough. I think as I recall, there's 18 other spots. There's not enough parking here, and we've had this discussion actually numerous times, and I don't support this at all. It has to go back, and I want to see the parking that we agreed to, that we think is appropriate to build a condominium complex in our township, and that's 2 parking spots outside and 1 in the garage.
Well,
Sorry, David.
I understand that, what you're saying, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but they were partway through their application when we came up with this.
They may have been partway, Mayor, we had the conversation though, that we knew that anybody coming forward after that point would, the bylaw would apply.
I just want to say that this application was before us, before we made that, decision. Now, in saying, that, council, we do have a mover, was there questions? Nobody had questions? Oh, no, there isn't a seconder. So, do I have a seconder? No, this is the report.
Jeff seconding.
You're seconding the report? Yes. Okay, all those in favor? I'm going to refer it back to staff. And the reason I'm referring it back to staff is I want to see, I'll sit down with David Sudd, who's here, and his engineer, and see what we can come up with for additional parking.
Can I give you a motion, Your Honor, to hear from the people?
Motion is always in order. Okay, just a minute, we've got a motion to refer it back to staff. Okay, do we have a seconder for that? All those in favor of referring it back to staff? Motion's lost. Okay, council. Okay, seconded by Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Sorry, can I have the count again? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Come on up. And can you turn the mic on, David, please?
We've went back and forth with the parking several times over the last 4 months, and I've altered the plan. Although it does say 1 in the garage and 1 in the driveway, I have now accommodated 2 in the driveway, 1 in the garage, and 22 visitor parking spots. So if you refer to it, only because I think it had an error in it.
Okay, so Liz is not responding to basically the latest plan?
That's correct. The latest plan in our meetings, which I agree, which we all talked about.
I thought so.
Yeah, that's the number I thought we had.
And I have that plan, and that's exactly what's been submitted. If you look at the draft plan, it shows 10 meters driveway length specifically. It shows 22 parking spots, and you have 1 in the garage, and that's what I'm looking for approval for right now. That was just a...
Great, it just wasn't in, the report didn't say that.
I found that out on Friday when I read the report, so it also confused me.
Great.
So I'm telling you, if you want to look at it now, that's exactly as, if you could...
No, so what we'll do now is reconsider our vote. Well, we...
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, maybe we can make a note that Liz's report has to be amended to reflect that there's 2 parking spots in the driveway and 1 in the garage, just not to lose sight of what David's saying. Liz actually had a fairly serious bike accident in the last week, that's why she's not here. And so, things are a little bit confusing right now for her.
Okay, so...
Can I, sorry, Madam Mayor, may I say one thing? It's 10 meters.
Yeah.
I almost got exactly 2, but two regular-sized vehicles is what I was able to accommodate, and that's exactly what I've done. And if you could refer back to the site plan that's as submitted, shows 2 mid-sized vehicles, 1 in the garage, and 22 parking spots.
Okay, so can we, then, the motion should be as what the CAO is recommending. It should be that Liz's report be amended, or we ask Liz to,
motion for reconsideration first.
Motion to reconsideration. Why did you come back? Okay, so, motion to reconsider, mover?
Councillor Malloy, Councillor Barton, to reconsider.
All those in favor of reconsideration, carried. Now,
Do you have 2/3 then?
yes, it was unanimous. You wanna write that down? Okay, then, the council requests that Liz Hausum amend her report.
Or just, we can, through your worship, we can deal with the report, it will just be as amended to take into consideration that there are 2 parking spaces in the driveway, 1 in the garage, and 22 visitor spots.
That's great.
Okay?
Yep.
Fair, David might wanna put the measurement in as opposed to 2 parking spaces.
10 feet.
10 meters.
10 meters? So it's not gonna hold a truck? Okay, are you supporting this?
I gave you the original motion to support the recommendation. I will now give it back to you again as amended
Thank
to
you.
have the 2 parking spots.
Seconded by Fred. All those in favor? Carried. There you are. Was that worth sitting about for 3 hours? No problem, it's not your confusion. Okay, report DS 5117 of Liz regarding, application to accommodate vocational school for special needs youth and adults. Councillor Malloy.
Sorry, you know what? This is the one where the autistic group came to us, right?
Yes.
So is this permitting it just on this site, or have we changed it throughout our township now?
No, permitting it for the site.
Simply that site? We were debating whether we were gonna come up with something similar to a couple other motions, right?
Actually had talked about it, but I
Yeah.
think the thought at the time was it's a little bit easier to deal with this on a site-by-site basis, because the other exercise would be fairly overwhelming. And that's actually been pushed off to 2019 possibly.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, is everybody good with this? Moved by Councillor Beach, seconded by Councillor Ballinger. All those in favor? Carried.
So you're gonna have to list the ones on the table, which is Benny DeBlasio. The first one here, 109, has to be lifted from the table.
Okay, 109 is lifted from the table, which is the Denny de Velase regarding the, sub shop. Motion please to lift that one. Councillor Malloy, Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. And is there another one that we have to lift?
No, but we'll have to amend, depending on what it says for David, so, I'm not sure, if we have to amend it. No.
Should be.
The report we dealt with today, the bylaw.
Okay, so I don't see another one listed in all these that we need to deal with, okay? So, we've lifted the one, right? We voted for it. All those in favor? Carried. Who has the bylaws?
Bylaws requiring 3 readings. First reading and second reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Barton. That leave be granted to introduce bylaws number 2017-109 and to 2017-117 to 2017-126, and the same be read a first and second time.
All those in favor of first and second reading? Carried. Leave be granted for third.
Third reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Barton. The bylaws number 2017-109 and 2017-117 to 2017-126 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly sign and seal same.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay, unfinished business. I have one item, and I thought I had asked for it for this, council meeting, but obviously I hadn't. I'd like to see a report regarding the Quat property. this is going to be going into winter soon, and we cannot let that property continue to go like the way it is.
And you did ask for a report, and it was actually on the agenda at the July 12th meeting, and it was written by Brian Pagoso, who talked about the fact that they were still working on getting issues resolved with the region's transportation division and LSRCA. We understand now that the region has signed off on the traffic piece, and I think they're just waiting to finalize things with LSRCA. There was, Brian actually had a report on it. It was either on the 31st or it was on the 12th, whichever.
Yeah, I understood that, but, you know, my concern is time is moving on, and is something gonna happen on this property, before winter? Anyway, obviously it's not an issue. You were gonna bring something up on that property.
You can see those gray walls and how awful they look, and he had come up with a fantastic idea of why don't we have some of the high school students work on some graffiti or something that will be nice. So what I want to do is kind of work with some people, get some ideas as how we can kind of clean that up, because it looks awful, right? It really does. The whole thing looks awful. But if we can get something going with some of these very talented artists we have in town, and certainly we'll spring for the paint or whatever, it's just an idea that she said I would like to bring forward.
I had heard the suggestion that, gosh, why don't you put the original site of the co-op that was there for years? So when you come into town and you see the wall, you see formerly what was there, the co-op building and the feed building, and you know, it would look great.
Yes, I'll take that and I'll firm something up and come back next time with an idea, but I certainly wanted to get out there, and certainly anybody's feedback would be great, or anybody from the public, certainly if that goes in the paper, certainly let me know on what we can do to kind of clean it up.
At the AMO convention we attended last week, an interesting speaker came up, and that was the girl from Caledon, who's a double hatter. And what they asked in that presentation was, would we support a GoFundMe account? And essentially, I'd like to do that, but I'd like to do it out of our corporate as opposed to out of golf funds. And I'd like to suggest an amount to be sent to support Caledon in their dispute, I'll call it, with the union, the firefighters union, which are insisting on, actually for her, they asked her to quit or pay a $23,000 fine. Caledon's paying that, and they're also paying the legal bills. And I really think we should support Caledon in this, because it's very important to our community to continue with our fire department. That we get or contribute $1,000 out of our corporate, somewhere through our corporate budget, to support Caledon's efforts.
I would second that.
No, good idea.
Great idea.
Yep.
Your mic, Carolyn.
She was an amazing young firefighter who loved her town, wanted to support her town, and fire union took her to court and basically fined her, as Pat said, I thought it was $24,000, doesn't matter, $24,000, because she's a full-time firefighter in Brampton, and she wanted to serve her community when she was off as a volunteer, and the union went after her and fined her $24,000. This could have huge ramifications for every small volunteer fire department in Ontario. So are we supporting Caledon's effort?
Yeah.
There's a GoFundMe. Actually, have you got the information?
Yeah, I have a link I can send you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And then just an Uxbridge connection to that. She is Joseph Gould's great-great-great-granddaughter. Yeah, I talked to her after she spoke. I ran into her in the lobby and mentioned Uxbridge, and she mentioned that her family was from there and that the family name was Gould.
Wow.
How many greats did you say?
I think there's 4. She's definitely great, I just don't know how great she really is.
Okay. The next item is the introduction of new graphics prepared for the Accessibility Advisory Committee.
So unfortunately Tori is not here right now. I tried to get her to come up here, but she must be on lunch. But this is just to showcase the graphics Tori, our summer student, created not only for the Accessibility Advisory Committee, but also for Ingrid for the Community Improvement Plan. We just felt that it's great to support and recognize young people who are starting in their careers and to show our appreciation for the work completed. So thank you, Tori. And this is also an opportunity to get council's feedback and input on these draft graphics before we finalize them and bring them back to council for approval. So I'll just show you guys some of the graphics and then let me know what you think.
Done a great job.
I'd also be happy to email the graphics to you guys so you can provide feedback that way.
Okay, confirming bylaw.
Confirming bylaw, first and second reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Barton, that leave be granted to introduce bylaw number 2017-127, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting of August 21st, 2007 times.
All those in favor of first and second reading, leave be granted for third.
Third reading, moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Barton, that bylaw number 2017-127 be now read a third time, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk duly sign and seal same.
All those in favor? Carried. Question period. Roger.
Thank you, Mayor. On the presentation by Robert Bishop and Jennifer Durkin, it says that there's an information package included for council. Is that available to the media?
Certainly.
Thank you. On Mr. McCutcheon's presentation on the electric car, what bylaw was he looking for?
He was looking for support of a vehicle, that, okay. We'll get the press 3 clean copies, okay, of the Bishop presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you write on mine? Oh. Oh, we'll email them to you, okay? Sorry, I think what he was asking for is that council support that type of vehicle, knowing that the maximum speed limit in town was 40 versus 50.
But would that require some council passing some new bylaw of some kind?
Well,
because he was talking about bylaw.
Yeah, so it would. But also staff would, do you want to answer this? Because there's some questions too that we need to look into, or some other aspects of this request.
Through your worship, unfortunately I did not get a package. The package wasn't provided to staff. So at this particular point, what I understand they're looking for is a bylaw for the township to adopt for the low-speed electric vehicles on public roads. So it would mean us amending our traffic bylaw again, and that's purely assumption at this point because we have not investigated it at all.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the request from Tish McDonald, road closures, is she indicating there's going to be some kind of parade, some kind of big ceremony for this Sam Sharp statue?
to have an event, have it as an event. For the official unveiling of the Sam Sharp statue.
Oh, this will be the unveiling of it, so
Right.
it'll already be in place then.
And the wall construction is started. So there will probably be some disruption in that area for traffic. And also, they're going to, just while I'm telling you, there's also going to be some boreholes dug in the vicinity of the new culvert. So there will be disruption there that you might want to mention as well.
Okay. It's unfortunate, Mayor, that at the end of council meetings, as opposed to committee meetings, by the time we get to the end of them, your department heads have disappeared, because my questions are really aimed at your department heads, and I can get by without answers to them. Because I have to once again bring attention to Mr. Grattan's report on the school zone. I pointed out this last year when this first came out. And Mr. Grattan says a no stopping area, which is the entire north side of Planks Lane. A no stopping area means no vehicle is permitted to stop. This includes braking. Now, after he did this last year, I drove along Planks Lane during the school drop-off zone. It is impossible to drive along that section of the road without hitting your brakes. Kids run across the road in front of you. There is a crosswalk, for God's sakes. And if someone's on the crosswalk, you have to put your brakes on. This just doesn't make sense, and he's done it again. I would like to have talked to him about it, but if you're not allowed to use your brakes, God help anybody on the road.
Why don't you go to the counter? He'll be there after we're through here. Moya? Oh, go ahead.
So when will the heritage designation be decided for Sam Sharp's house? Is there like a set date when you'll decide?
No.
Okay.
No. As I say, I think that we have a big problem in this town that we have to address about heritage buildings before we lose them. So hopefully that discussion will take place with the Heritage Committee sooner than later. Moya? You're okay. Anyone in the audience that wishes to speak? Yes. Yeah. It's okay.
Sorry guys, it's me again. This is just a broad statement. I'm sure you're aware that I was not aware of this meeting today until 2 minutes before the meeting. I was called at my home. I was not informed, nor was my husband again. This situation has caused a little bit of undue stress for my husband and I will explain why. We don't want the people who are opening the sub shop to think that we're against it. We've said that very clearly from the very beginning, that we're not against them opening. We actually welcome them and look forward to frequenting their place. We've actually been to the hair salon, we frequent the laundromat, we also use the convenience store, so we're not against their business. What we are against is being made to feel like pariah in our community at this point. There's been a lot of incidents in the last couple of days to us regarding this. There is a sign on the sub shop door saying that the reason that their application was not approved is because information came in late, past the deadline. I believe you all know that that is not the case.
That is not the case.
We were on time within the regulation. It was not dealt with by council. It was not entered in time. It was stamped and signed by the township on time. We did not hold up their application. It was someone else who jumped the gun on preparing that shop before it was even approved and the bylaw passed. That sorry, excuse me, it's just upsetting to me because they went around, they did also I believe, had a bunch of people signing under the impression that we were holding up the sub shop. and that it was because of us that the sub shop was not going through. Our only concern, as we said from the very beginning regarding this, was to make sure that the garbage was properly allocated. My husband and I were across the plaza on the weekend. We're very happy to see and very thankful to see all the garbage bins that are out. All we simply wanted when we put our letter in was to make sure that the people that live in the residence were being taken care of. Because yes, although you are currently taking care of garbage now, in the past, for many years, we have cleaned up numerous amounts of garbage. Last night, we had someone run through our back property from the subdivision behind us with a flashlight to go to the convenience store. It is an ongoing process for us living in that residence. So quite simply, all we wanted was to make sure that not only the people that are in the plaza, but the residents were being well protected and living together as a community as one.
Okay, first of all, and we know your name up here, but because we're on television, so could you give us your name?
Serena Birkbeck at 173 Reach Street.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I totally agree with your statements, and it was the mistake that was here. The mistake was made here. It was not your mistake. Your letter came in on time.
Thank you.
And that's unfortunate that somebody has taken upon themselves to do that, because that's inaccurate information. I also expressed my, not shock, but, you know, you cannot put signs and things up on a store that has not been officially opened through bylaws, okay? This store has had signs on it way before council had dealt with the bylaw, and I was shocked. I think most of us were shocked when we drove by and saw that. So, you know what, you're not in any way wrong in what your feelings are, and you had every right to express that. You live in the vicinity, and it's unfortunately things happen like this, and but I want to make publicly the statement is that you were not wrong. The error happened here with the municipality of not submitting your letter and not having our planner have your letter when she wrote the report.
I greatly appreciate that.
And that's why we tabled it when we did. So, yeah.
And just further that, Your Worship, even though the bylaw is passed today, does not necessarily mean that the approval has happened. There is still a notification process and an appeal period. So just because the bylaw is passed today does not, in fact, still mean that that additional use is in place.
In no way, shape, or form are we trying to prevent that. We actually quite welcome it. We've said that from the very beginning. We wish them nothing but success. We don't want to be the reason why they don't open. We'd love to see them open now, and I think we all know it would have been opened now if everything would have progressed the way that it should have. So, honestly, we don't want to stop them. We're happy the garbage bins are out. We're happy they've addressed the issues. We got that. They emailed me the additional correspondence literally 2 minutes to 10 o'clock today. I didn't get a chance to see any of that ahead of time, because I can tell you right now, we would have written a letter in to say that we are happy with the answers that were given back to us and the fact that we were addressed, and would have actually recommended it for it to go through. So all I ask in the future that hopefully these things don't keep happening, because it's 2 in a row for us on this particular project alone, and we don't want people in the community to ever feel like we're trying to hold them back, because that's definitely not the case.
No, and I can't express in more terms than I have. This was not your issue. This was an issue that happened in error here. The township is responsible for that letter not being part of the submission. And I certainly appreciate you coming in. I'm sure the owners will appreciate to hear that you are not against it.
Not at all.
There is a process, and the process is that store can't open, and I live around the corner from it, so that store can't open now for a period of, is it 30 days? Or 20? 20 or 30?
We have 15 days to send out notification of the passing of the bylaw. Generally, it doesn't take 15 days. And then following the date of notification, then there's 20 days for appeal.
Okay, so it's roughly
Feel
another...
bad for them.
Well, feel
I-
bad for them, but you know what? It's a process.
Yeah.
And the process has nothing to do with you. If the bylaw was passed last council meeting, they'd still have to wait that period of time.
Okay.
Because that's the rules of the land, so to
Right.
speak, okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
I don't know why you were not notified until 10 minutes before you were the agenda, so I'll have to look into that. Okay.
Thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Serena. Yes?
It was a misunderstanding, and I told her what happened. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you came.
Yeah.
Can I say something after?
Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to apologize.
You need to come,
To everybody involved.
we need your name again.
It's Michelle Duffy Johnson. And, I'm taking full responsibility. I'll take the fall for it all. Firstly, I wasn't notified of any meetings, ever. I got it through the landlord that there would be a meeting here today.
Well, you wouldn't be.
Okay, but the very first, I'm just in a nutshell explaining how this all
Yeah,
came to be.
but I'm just saying you wouldn't be notified because the township is dealing and council is
understand.
dealing with your landlord, not with you,
I understand.
okay?
But I had to come in and explain how the process got messed up.
Mhm.
So I'm renting this, anyways. The signage went up unbeknownst to us. The pylon sign, as soon as the first meeting was heard and my landlord said, it looks okay, it's gotta be postponed, and for whatever the reasons were, I'm, getting this ready and getting that ready and trying to do this and trying to do that. And I called my sign people in Whitby to say, I want you to start working on my signs as soon as possible. They got the pylon sign ready and they came and they stuck it up. I wasn't even there. And it's the wrong signage. So I called them back and I went, and Benny was, what are you doing? I had no idea that they were doing this. I called the sign guy back and said, get that sign down. I, up till then, had paper on the window, was complying, doing everything I was supposed to be doing. And it's the wrong sign anyway. It's not even the proper legal name. And to date, they still haven't come and taken the sign down. I left it, and the other sign went up after a meeting that you people had. My mistake that I assumed that once the boulevard sign went down, saying a notice to put the business in place or yada yada, once that went down, I thought, it's a go. I didn't get
Yeah.
anything otherwise from the town.
You know
I
what?
gave
We all make mistakes.
my error, and I'm apologizing
No,
for
you
it.
know what? No apologies are needed. There is a process, and I think that, things happen. Unfortunately for Selena, is that council, or the municipality, let her down on 2 occasions. And that's hard for a resident, something that, she didn't have any, it's our issue, not hers, okay? So,
But I can only go
And
by
you know
what I
what?
receive, and I receive a complaint from them, and I'm not even there and open, and I'm already there power washing and cleaning up after the convenience store and the laundromat and, trying to make this place presentable because I'm also going to now be a neighbor of it.
yeah,
And I'm like, I took it direct. I truly, I took it as against me now opening this and I'm gonna create all of this. So my response was that's how we've corrected it.
Yeah.
I've done way beyond what I need to fulfill and try to make other store owners as well as neighbors, public,
I
happy
think
about it, but-
everybody's glad to see you there. The process, I mean, there was some errors made on everybody's side, and we just
And I
wanna
just
see you.
assumed the sign went down, you guys approved, and I was ready to go.
Yeah.
And now I'm, throwing
So,
out product and.
You have,
Welcome to Uxbridge. I have to excuse myself, Madam Mayor. There's pre-planning at 1:30, if any council members can make it. it'd be
yeah,
great.
okay, thank
So
you.
does the Quaker Church.
So what time frame am I looking at now? Like,
You're looking at basically 25 days on the outset.
But,
25. It's, well, 15 days.
wasn't it from the original meeting or no?
No,
We'll
it's,
try and get the notice out by the end of this week, and then there's a 20-day appeal period.
that's not township laws, that's provincial laws.
Yeah, I, my error, assuming that it maybe went back to the
Yeah,
original meetings
no.
of discussion.
It's from the time the bylaws read. Okay, the bylaw
And
was
when-
read today.
It was today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.